call to order our November 11th Beechwood Board of Education meeting and also Veterans Day. So thank you to all our veterans. We appreciate you. And we will move on to recognition of guests. Do we have anybody?
Well, we'll take roll call first.
Oh, roll call. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Make sure everybody's here.
I was all worried about our veterans, so let's.
Mrs.
Yes,
Berger.
Here.
Mr. Hood.
Here.
Mrs. Slate.
Here.
Mrs. Stricker.
Here.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Now on to recognition of guests.
No
Mrs.
recognition of guests tonight?
None?
And no
Okay.
speakers tonight.
Okay, I would like to take a quick minute. We have in our audience tonight two of the future board members who won the most recent race. So welcome tonight, Kyle Burns and Laura Wooten. So welcome, and we look forward to working with you in January.
Congratulations.
Hope you know what you got into.
Too late.
There's still time to
run. Okay, on to our discussion and action agenda. We have one big item. Consent agenda. We'll take a motion for the consent agenda. Not everybody at once.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay,
All right. No action items. So
I know.
sorry about that, but as far as consent, a couple of odd things. Southgate Independent does not own any buses. We on occasion go over and run their field trips when we're able. So they have put in a request for a bus that out of state that you all would have to approve. That is one item. And then everything else, we are surplusing, asking you all to surplus bus number 4. It had a critical failure on the way to one of the band competitions. It would cost more to fix than it's worth. So at that point, I'm asking you to surplus bus 4 so we can get rid of it.
And how old is that bus? Is that the one that?
That one was on the lot before I got here.
Oh, so that's one of the original. Okay. Not that new one that we got like.
We got 2 newer ones
I mean, they're
last year.
still older, but yeah.
And this will cause us to look for another newer one in the spring.
Okay.
Outside of that, everything's the same.
Okay, on the bills, I
Yes.
do have a question on all of that, like I guess it's Delta. Are we all good with that? Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's all I have.
Delta is the electrician sub on the addition. So that was the question. Anything else?
The COSI trip, since there's only 21 students, is it a specific class that's going to COSI?
What?
7th and 8th grade, the COSI trip? It's
Southgate.
That's for
Independent
Southgate
School.
Oh, it's for
Independent.
Southgate
No,
Independent.
I'm on the,
Yeah, it's a COSI
Sorry.
in Columbus.
Right,
And we
COSI.
let Southgate
using
use
our
our
bus to
buses,
go.
but because it's out of state,
that's who's using
you,
it.
and not use them. I mean, we
Well,
drive.
It says,
So we provide the driver?
no, it's not what I'm
We
asking.
bill them for that and get reimbursed.
And we bill them and they reimburse us.
Okay, for that, okay.
But
Sorry.
because it's out of state, you still have to approve even though it's Southgate requested.
Same thing.
And, you know, I know they're a little bit farther away, but they're nice. And, you know, it's more of a goodwill gesture than anything else. I mean,
As
they're
long as our
just,
drivers don't mind doing it.
now, if we have a conflict or if there's a problem, you know, obviously they don't do that, but yeah, that's it. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, take a minute.
All right, Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yep.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Stricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to superintendent's report.
Okay, so I want to go through construction really detailed, moving up to the 13th of December.
So much for that, Lori.
Oh, it'll be, we'll be good. We'll be good. All right. Number one, sign package is 3/4 of the way in. We have everything but the Lord's Tiger Paws and the the thing on the seal on the gate. But that is one of our hiccups. Another hiccup is a set of lights that go up in a wooden slat. That's a hiccup. And there's a door framing that had to be redesigned to fit the glass in the media lab. Those are our 3 hiccups.
That
right?
will delay until,
Well, we just got to get them in, right? So
Okay.
we call every morning to those 3 vendors on pushing, getting those 3 things in. So those are our 3 kind of hiccups, along with the stage 4. But that's just because they're working their way out. That's not a problem. It's just whether or not we can get it by the 13th. So here's what's going to happen next. They're putting the rest of the ceiling panels in starting tomorrow that have the wood in them because those lights are supposed to come in tomorrow. So if that happens, they'll have all the ceiling done within 2 days. The moment that happens, they'll finish the tile on the main atrium. Most of you all haven't seen the tile yet, but they had to leave a path to get the lift to fix the lights. So that'll happen. Furniture started going in today on the front part of the building. Furniture continues on through the week and into next week where they bring the round 2 and start furnishing upstairs in the front. And I'll start here and work my way back. So Student Center, finish of the wood steps starting on November the 18th. Install of the eSports Lab starting on November the 18th. The flooring will be done. So I anticipate being able to open that up to Santa Fest, but I haven't notified them of that. But if the lights come in tomorrow, we should definitely be in a shape to open up the Student Center to help Santa Fest relieve a little pressure for them and the craft fair on the 30th. As far as inside, furniture will continue to install and should run up all the way to Thanksgiving. Fast Signs is coming right around Thanksgiving to start all of the sign package that they have. The sign package on the other side will start going in this week.
different vendors.
Yeah, different vendors. So I think as far as leading up to December 13th, really the only things we're worried about are the big lit up paws. We had to make a change on the steps because they have a double curve in them. So that is going to be a little bit of a pickle because I've just extended the tile all the way up to the main entrance and we're going to tile the steps instead of trying to cut rubber. The rubber caps, I know it gets interesting, but they can work with one curve, but the one set of steps has a double curve, and it's impossible to cut.
Are those the ones that are right in here to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
Main entrance to the left, right by
Down
the
the
media.
stairs,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, so we made the decision just to tile all the way up, and that way we can not have to do something that looks like a garage floor, like an epoxy. So that and the 3 hiccups that I told you about are the things that I'll be informing you about. But as of right now, I don't see any problem with that. The other thing that's supposed to install on the 18th is the specialty cornice that goes around the curved wall and down in between the high school that has a fitting on it. Right now, I feel like the ribbon cutting should be fine on the 13th. We will still have some punch items to do, but I don't see any problem with kids walking on January the 6th. Even if one of those things gets delayed a little bit, I mean, we're still in good enough shape. We had Servpro in this past weekend cleaning. They'll come back next weekend and clean, and again right before we open up. So, I mean, I feel like that is running pretty well.
What
Our
about the
landscaping will
auditorium?
go in the first week of December. Before Thanksgiving.
Over here on the high school side?
Yes, over here on the high school side. So we should start, I have a tree service coming Thursday to cut down the tree.
are
let us have a lot of dust.
What-
Right there in the corner of the parking lot, there's a group of odd trees, and my grandpa would be ashamed of me for not telling you which ones they are, but it's more like a clump of trees as
Okay,
opposed to
so they're
like
just
an
taking
individual
actual
oak
big
or
tree.
maple or walnut, something like that. So anyway, we'll clear those out so we can do the fencing, and that should go in the first week after Thanksgiving as well. So I feel like everything's going to be in good shape, except we had to pull from the locker rooms to
That was
just keep
my
everybody over
question.
here.
Yeah.
The locker rooms are a little behind, along with the concession stand. So still
Like how
trying.
behind?
Well, I mean, we were supposed to be done with them.
Yeah.
So,
By November. Well, it is November, yeah.
Yeah, it
What
is
about the
November.
pillars in the front? I noticed that when I walked in. Are they going to be wrapped, the pillars in the front?
yes,
They're going to be wrapped, or is
with the same design as was
Okay.
on the old building, the round
Yeah,
column.
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel good. I know that sometimes when people walk through, they still see some areas, but all that is we have two large boxes in two different spots. That's the biomed ceiling, and that's the pieces for the Idea Lab ceiling. Both of those should be completed, if not by the end of this week, early next week, which still gives us plenty of time. So, I mean, our three hiccups right now are the one door in the media design lab, because it had to be redesigned. The large pause, the lit up pause, and the lights where the wood slats go and waterfall over the wall. Those are three hiccups. I'll keep you posted. I mean, I'll definitely know.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts. It's every day. And a lot of people are working on it too. I'm not overly worried about the three paws, right? You could walk through the building and it would look finished and not even know that there are three paws, in those spots. We have to have the lights. We're supposed to get them tomorrow. They'll be installed immediately and we'll finish that up. The steps and the tile and the metal frame going into the Idea Lab, or the media design lab, obviously you couldn't look finished without those items. So we go through every night. Heath has been great. I send an email with Heath every night to the vendors that we're still needing stuff from, and then we follow up every morning. So it's two times every day. But I don't see a problem with kids being in on the 6th, and I don't see a problem now if when invitations went out yesterday, that pretty much was the sign, that we feel like we're ready to move forward. I can't give you a date on the locker rooms.
What about the railings on the front stairs?
Railings on the front stairs are laying out there ready to install, but I won't let them install because the concrete isn't smooth enough on the front steps. So they've either got to get it right or they got to tear them all out and redo them. And they can do that in 2 days. But I'm not going to give approval on the railings until the steps are the way they should be.
What do you mean they're not? What's wrong with them? Like they're not smooth?
Well, number one, they have a lip up on a few of the steps, so it makes it feel a
The
little
heels are-
uneven.
yeah.
They've worked a lot to improve that, but they still look like rough. They're still too rough for a finished product on the very front of the main building. So they're going to have to fix that.
The 13th, is that an invitation only type thing? Because I had a couple people asking me.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a sergeant at arms, at the door. I mean, but I think our conversation around the pomp and circumstance of the ribbon cutting was more on, for people who had donated or been involved. But then at the same time, I'm not gonna keep people from showing up. I know people are going to want to take a peek, right? I mean, which is fine. I think they should. But we really want to have that full-on celebration, grand opening in March, and we only said March
When
just
it's all
so
finished,
we
when
could-
everything's finished.
we have the weather. We wouldn't have to worry about snow or a cancellation, right? So
But staff will be going
Staff will walk through the day
Thursday
before.
with same,
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, if you guys want to, you know, come back and say, hey, listen, you know, community is, you know, chomping at the bits, you know, open it up over break and let people, you know, roam in and out. I mean, we can do that anytime.
could do
No.
that. Maybe the week between,
Christmas and.
yeah,
Yeah.
Christmas and New Year or something? Or maybe after the,
You can have it open, you know, every Saturday as far as I am concerned. I mean, I know everybody wants to take a look. I get it. There's a lot to look at. Because you just don't realize that there's that much there because,
People been driving by it for years now, and they,
well, and people don't realize that, most people don't realize that we took 578 semi-truckloads of dirt out, you know, so people just don't realize how far down it goes, you
that
know.
the look down of the auditorium
Yeah,
is pretty
it's a cool
amazing.
sight.
You know, it's a pretty cool.
Yeah, you just can't see that from the road.
No.
You know, it's impossible to see it from the road. But yeah, I mean, as soon as we're ready, you know, open it up as much as you want to open it. As far as the finance report, I mean, Chris, anything to add that?
No, because we just met last week to go over it, and I mean, everything's going along as it should, you know. We're getting our tax receipts now, so that's good.
I do have one request. We found a little hiccup with bands and how much we are taking in versus paying out. A lot of that is reimbursed by the boosters, but the numbers have been a little off. So we would like to come back at the beginning of next year and clean that up with you guys. And I'm going to need to clean up Winter Guard, right? But I'm asking your permission to bring that back in December, because until I get the final numbers and everything's worked out, I could come back and ask you to increase the stipend by $2,000 this month, and then have to come back next month and ask you for, you know, 1,000 more. So what I'm requesting, our Winter Guard payout is looking like it's going to be a little short based on what they're wanting to pay instructors. All right, we've always gone by the premise that, you know, what you all approve is what we can pay, right? But because of the boosters reimbursing, right, and if Christie hadn't called it, we were going to overpay for Winter Guard, right? So what I'm asking is to let them get their fundraiser out of the way and see what remaining number that I need to request for you guys to allow us to pay. Right? I can do that in December if you'll just let me, you know, give me the go-ahead to allow them to move forward, and then I'll bring the correct number back in December.
So we're talking under 3,000, under 5,000?
Yeah, I think it'd be, her guesstimate is $2,000.
Yeah, I think if their fundraiser happens and everything in the boosters, I think that we should be like 2,000, it'd be fine.
You're not paying it. I mean, it's being are we paying the?
Well, I was thinking you were offering that up, 2,000
Yeah.
was gonna be the
Yeah.
district, but then, yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially, it may not be that much, but yeah.
Okay, well, I will, if I give your permission, I mean, because otherwise I have to put a guesstimate on tonight. I would have to put a
So we're just-
guesstimate, and then I feel like that makes us look bad if it's not right. So as soon as they get the fundraiser back, then we have the difference.
But the fundraiser we're talking about is not until spring.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work it out.
I don't know.
Aren't they
that one.
doing the
That one I
craft
think is
fair
for
or
Winter
something?
Guard, yeah.
The band is doing the craft fair.
Right.
They are, that's the marching, it's for marching band. The
Oh.
one for Winter Guard is the snap race.
Okay.
What I'll say just in general, there's nothing wrong, and there's nothing that I want to, you know, have a say with band at all. It's just, we need to know the exact number, so you all can approve the exact number, so that we keep them from doing something they're not supposed to do, right? Their boosters, you know, raises money and helps support positions, right? You all have always allowed that. But we want to make sure that everything's running, because, I mean, legally, we're not allowed to pay something that you haven't approved, right? So we need to make sure those numbers match, and we're just going to need a little cleanup. So we've got that covered. I just need to have a little bit more time before I put the number on the agenda for you all to fix.
So we're not going to address that now, we're going to wait until.
I want to know exactly how many kids come out. I want to know exactly I need a
How
little
much
bit more
January?
detail.
When do you think we'll get that information?
I need a little bit more detail before I can put it on the
The
agenda.
number of kids in the program? You think so? Okay. I don't know. I was gonna say, okay.
Well, yeah, their first competition's right after break. So,
Okay.
I mean, they'll start practicing.
Is it?
I-
Okay.
I'm good. I just need from you all that that's okay to wait till December and come back to you.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather do it one time than twice.
Right,
Yeah.
I get it.
And no pay's gonna go out between then that's not covered. So I think that's the way I'd like to do it, but I did want to inform you tonight of exactly the situation and why and what I was doing.
Is
We
that
don't
it?
need to vote on
Is there nothing we need to do?
No,
Yeah.
What
no,
about,
I just need to, I need to let you all know, and then if you're asking me to do something tonight, then I'm gonna ask to go back and amend the agenda and add a $2,000 stipend, but I'm gonna tell you the whole time we're doing that, if it's $2,500, I gotta come back to you again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, all right, as far as that, anybody who wants to walk the building after we finish, I'd be more than happy to walk the building, and that's all I have.
Okay, I do have a question. I was looking at the SBDM meeting minutes, and I know there's been talk about the DC trip.
Yep.
Do we have any update on that?
What we have talked about is there can't really be a decision on continuing the DC trip in the high school until 2026, right? Because the group that would be traveling would be 26, 27. So I've advised Alan, I would not make a public yes or no, because number one, I don't know that Alan's going to
Well,
be
so
here in
elementary's
26.
taken, I know, but is elementary not doing it at all anymore? Or that's my question?
Elementary is not doing it at all anymore. Mr. Ashley has made the determination that he no longer wants to do, and I mean, the elementary no longer wants to do a sixth grade trip.
Okay, is there a reason for that? Or, I mean, I don't have any information on it. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has gotten any information on it.
I can send you an email if you'd like.
Okay.
Having the reasons why.
Yeah, that would be great, because I just
get questions.
Facebook is not the most reliable thing to go by, so, I know, shocking. But yes, yeah, I've been getting a lot of feedback here and there, but I just wanted to figure out the why and kind of share it with everybody so they know too. Okay.
I think I can answer two, and then you tell me if I'm wrong. From amount of parents and managing, the numbers of parents versus the number of kids. I mean, there was always issues with that piece. And then the second piece is I don't think the teacher that's always done it wanted to continue doing it. So from a principal standpoint,
Those are both correct. We had 112 kids go this year with 74 adults.
Goodness.
So that became a little problematic for a lot of reasons. But Ms. White and the team of people who coordinated that decided not to continue coordinating.
so from a principal standpoint, all I can say is when your teacher who's always done something decides not to do it anymore without somebody that jumps in to want to take it over, you're really kind of in a position to, that's problematic.
There's no one that wants to take it over. I mean, it's a great trip. I mean, it really is. I think,
Yeah.
I hate to see it go. That's why.
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of options over time. I just can't. It's like doing a contract and binding a future board into something that isn't going to happen for 3 years, right? So the sixth graders went this year. So we're talking about the current fifth graders when they moved up to whatever grade, right? So I mean, that's a long time away. So as I would advise Mr. Ashley, I mean, you can't make somebody do it. I agree with that. I would also advise Mr. Yankee, be careful about agreeing to something that's 3 years in advance when we don't know what staff would be interested in it future, and we don't know what admin would be.
So where does that go to? Does site-based continues to talk about it? Like
It's
what?
a principal. I mean, a principal has the decision on a trip from the beginning level, right?
Two other major things, just quickly. It became $1,000 per person So cost prohibitive in some ways was a factor. And the other thing, we take 4 days out of 6th grade to go to DC, learn about our country's history, which is fantastic, but it's no longer tied to the 6th grade standard. So 6th grade switched to ancient civilization a couple years ago. Ms. White continued to coordinate the trip just because she had done it for so many years. But because it's not tied to that content anymore, and because of the other reasons that we mentioned, be a few things why.
I don't think we've ever been opposed to travel. I mean, we have.
I don't ever want to go back.
Yeah. Huh?
I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. He said he doesn't ever want to do the trip again. I think you've aged out, right? I've aged out. But we've never been opposed to travel. I just want to make sure, as an agency, we're not agreeing to something 3 years in advance when I don't even know that we would have a teacher in the high school interested, or even whether the high school administrator would be
Right,
interested.
but usually that goes away. I mean, when you talk like that, I mean, that'll usually go away then, because like Boston, they did that, and then that was gone, and they've done, you know what I'm saying? So we're moving away from those trips that are, but.
Yeah, but it comes down to, do you have a staff person that is wanting to do it on their own, right? I mean, we've gone to Spain, we've gone to Italy, we've gone to Boston, right? But that's always been a staff person who's kind of taken the initiative to, hey, I want to do this on the side. And I know the elementary trip, I've told them all there would be blowback on the elementary trip, because that one is something that has happened for a very long time, right? So I think that we'll have to have that conversation, right, of what we're going to do for kids, but I don't think the timing's right to try to put something out that far in advance. I mean, we're just talking about a long time in advance. So that's where we're at today.
Okay. Anything else? You good?
You ready?
Yep.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yep.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Stricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries on to the next item, which is making the agenda part of the official board minutes. We'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion
So
to make
moved.
the agenda part of the board minutes.
I heard the last part.
I know.
Mrs. Berger? Mr.
Yes.
Hood? Mrs. Slate? Mrs. Stricker?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Sullivan? Thank you.
Did you run out?
Don't think it's always this easy, you two.
Yeah, I know, this is like a really,
Yes.
exactly. I guess we don't have any other, but, oh, wait, we do have, I went to my first cross-country state meet last week and saw Lily Park win first place, and I saw boys run, and that was pretty exciting, so it was
Lily's
awesome.
Park was so far ahead of
She was.
everybody.
Really?
I was like, where are the rest?
Where
Is
is
she a
she?
repeat state champion, or is that her first
No,
time?
that's her
This
first
is her first
time.
time?
Mhm,
But she's
cross-country.
only,
For cross-country.
Cross-country
Okay.
track, they've
that's
won,
what
but,
I'm
yeah.
remembering. Okay.
I have a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, Dr. Stacy, over the past 2 weeks, I have messaged you multiple times to meet in person, and you have not responded to any of those messages. Why?
You really want me to answer that in open meeting?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, the last time that we met, Mr. Dieters and Ms. Berger advised me not to meet in private with you again, because you've made some accusations against me that I don't think are true. So I'm not going to meet with you in private again.
Well, you know, the fact is, I'm still on the board for 2 more months, and
Yeah.
there's business to do.
Okay.
And if you won't meet with me in private, then I'm going to ask my questions here.
Okay.
Okay. So, in the new building, there are multiple rooms with glass walls,
Yes.
and the large glass garage door.
Yes.
What are the plans if there is an active shooter?
It's in the safety manual that we go over every year, not for open meetings.
The safety manual's not for open meetings?
No, it's
Generally,
not
we don't
allowed.
talk
Okay.
about safety
Okay.
protocol because you
Okay.
don't want the bad people to know what the
Okay.
protocol is.
All right, my next question is, what is being done to improve staff morale?
I know you've talked about this a lot, but I don't have any data that shows there's a morale issue.
Okay, well, 61 people contacted me in May, and
But in private, you told me a lot of those were anonymous and you couldn't really give me the number.
No, I could give you the number. I couldn't
Not
tell
enough.
you.
It's not anonymous, you can't give me a number. 'Cause
I can
anonymous
just tell you
I
how-
could do it 3 times.
No. They were all from different numbers.
This is nonsense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
Okay.
there's a,
I mean, the board,
if you have a
all-
personal issue with Dr. Stacy, I
You need
think
to
that
take your
should.
personal vendetta somewhere
I-
else.
you know
We're
what?
tired of watching it.
You know what, Melanie? I have the right to speak. And if he's not going to meet me in private, I wanted to do this in private. If he's not going to meet me in private, then
We've
I
all
have the-
listened to your false accusations for a long time.
Well, you know what? You think they're false. I don't.
You don't have any evidence that proves otherwise.
The one thing I'll ask is when I asked you to open up a formal investigation, and said that was your responsibility and duty as a board member, why didn't you do it?
I have asked Mrs. Berger to do it.
You have not asked me to open up an investigation. You did not. No, we talked about staff morale. We did not.
Okay.
That's not the same
The-
thing.
the-
An
the other one-
investigation.
Unfortunately, the video evidence was deleted before I had a chance to do that.
You can still ask for, you don't
Okay.
need video. If you think something happened, you need to open up a full-on investigation.
Okay.
But you chose not to do that, and I even said I would sign an affidavit, which was way more than anything else.
Okay. All right, I have some questions about future construction. Okay?
Teacher construction,
Future construction.
Future construction.
Future construction.
okay?
Okay, you have said in a previous meeting that you want to have the field house locker room renovated.
I do.
Why?
Ventilation,
Ventilation.
yeah.
So just the ventilation fixed in there?
Are you asking multiple questions, or
What else besides ventilation needs to be fixed in there?
needs to be fixed?
Yes. Or what else needs to be remodeled in there?
Well, I mean, I would like to always keep our facilities top-notch, just like we've done everything else. Same reason we need to remodel the
Okay,
basketball.
is there a
and
reason
volleyball
why we're
courts.
doing this right
Yeah,
now?
this is not-
Because-
This is a
because-
conversation that you all can have.
no problem.
At a
You know what,
separate time.
I
know,
tried,
but
you
it's-
know, please let me speak, okay? I did try to meet with you. You know,
I'm
you
good.
know what, if you weren't gonna meet with me, you should have at least contacted me.
You know, there's something called a phone call. You know, you can call me anytime. You can also call the board chair anytime.
I know.
And ask for anything.
Okay.
You haven't done anything. You text me a couple times and want to meet in private after you accuse me of things from meeting in private. I'm not going to do that. I'll be more than happy. I live in a glass house. I have no issue having this on anything.
Okay.
So
All right.
have at it.
All right. Let me ask, how much of the debt service for these projects will come from general fund if we do this?
Nothing
next
comes,
phase?
oh, I mean, general fund, are you separating that bonding money that's
No.
provided by the state?
Bonding money isn't always,
Part of bonding money comes from your local tax, part of bonding money comes from matches.
okay. So
Right,
how much
so-
of it comes from our local taxes?
It's about 2/3 to a third?
Of the total, it's 20% is what the tax rate is, the 20% of the tax together, but
Not, she's
Yeah.
asking about percentage of bonding that comes from state versus local. It's about a third versus
yeah,
two-thirds.
yeah, yeah, you're right, exactly, it is, definitely, 2/3 to a
Okay.
third. Mhm.
All right, and so that money comes from, the local money comes from where?
From tax rates,
Okay,
that generates all your local money other than SEEK funding.
okay. But that also is part of the general fund, isn't it?
It's not part of general,
No,
I mean,
no.
are you talking about school funding, right? Our total number is, what, 18 million total?
Mm-hmm.
But then that is separated out into the two pots, right? So what we consider general fund is our year-to-year, our money going out year-to-year.
And that money going out year to year is
Well, I mean,
part
it's
of.
I call the general fund like the operations of the school, and then there's the restricted funds, which is the bonding, that's
Yes.
separate and it's restricted, and you can only use it for bonding.
Okay,
So, I mean, we don't, to date, we have never used general fund to pay for bonding or debt. I mean, and I don't think we ever have, but I know we haven't, and there's no plans to.
No,
Yeah,
no
so,
plans,
yeah.
because they never want to
Yes.
put general fund dollars
Yes.
into any project.
Right.
Right, because you're using unrestricted funds
Mm-hmm.
that could be used for anything for a restricted project. I mean, so we never want to do that.
Okay. The faculty and staff have indicated that their salaries are not competitive with other Northern Kentucky districts. Is this an issue that you wish to prioritize?
It's always been prioritized.
And
Every year, I go to her and ask her, what can we do? And then I inform you guys. And we usually do the max that we can do.
I realize that, but did you realize that out of the 13 districts in Northern Kentucky?
18 districts in Northern Kentucky.
I'm sorry, I just did the ones within these counties, okay? The three of the Northern Kentucky counties. We ranked last. I went through and did I did analysis of rank 2 with 10 years of experience. I can't do average ones because that takes into account how many years people are working, what level they're at, that sort of thing. But I'm just comparing apples to apples. Rank 2 with 10 years experience. We rank dead last.
Do you take into account the districts that have given big raises with funds that came from COVID funds? That are we're operating as the second last from the bottom of those funds, so we didn't get that kind of money.
I know, but I'm not saying all of those schools. I mean, Southgate Independent Schools pays their teachers more than we do.
I haven't done the one analysis this year, but we've never been that low in any former analysis.
Okay.
Right, so if you take 1 year that's in the middle and different districts prioritize different areas, I mean, that could be true. I have no idea.
Well, it is. I did do the analysis.
Okay, did you do anything for classified? Because they really, we need
No,
to add some money to
I
classified.
know classified also needs.
Yeah, and admin rates, not me. I'm just saying
Not
admin
you.
in general, right?
Okay.
Okay, so how many more questions
Oh,
do you
no,
have?
let's stay.
no.
I want to hear.
No, those
Yeah.
are basically it. I mean,
I'm here for it.
I'm just looking at our next proposed phase of
I mean, the thing
construction.
is, you were even board chair when I asked for what percentage of raise you want to give, and you even said, we'll give what we can give.
Yes,
that's
and
what we do.
I do realize
Right,
that.
and you were in the meeting in Louisville whenever I said, when we do this double nickel, are we going to give it to staff or are we going to give it to
Well, the double
building?
nickel, you
Hold
can't.
on, all right, and everybody at the table said we're doing it for the building, right?
Yes.
Because that is an absolute priority, including you.
Yes.
Right, the moment we did that, if you remember, I said, you all just made me a hero to the community and a goat to the school. Right, because we're a small district. We can't do two massive projects at one time. You raise the taxes, you put the taxes towards the building. The building became the priority until it was done, right? And even with that, we've been able to do percentage raises above the step, right? 22% over the last 10 years above, 22%, that's pretty solid. I mean, now if you want to talk on the national agenda and say teacher, right? Number one, you'll never pay a teacher what they're worth, ever. Number two, we always say staff, right? Because we have 167 employees that we have to address, right? And we've gone all the way back to that decision in that room in Louisville, right? Of knowing where we were going to tie our money up for a limited amount of time. And we all said the reason for that was the engineer report that said we had 5 to 7 years before a critical infrastructure problem.
I realize that, but I also realize that when you have a nickel tax, it can only be used for buildings.
No, that's not true.
I'm sorry, Jeremy told me that.
That's not true. You can do a nickel tax and not have it matched and use it for anything you
If
want.
it's
You
not
just have to
matched.
announce, you have to announce it ahead of time.
You can't have a match.
Can't have a match.
Or non-match. Or
Yeah.
whether it's for column, you can set any tax rate you want. If you go over the 4%, it's then subject to a recall petition.
You can do any tax and use it for anything.
I realize that. I had asked Jeremy if we could do a nickel tax to raise staff, and you told me, no, it can only be used for building funds.
No, matches can only be used for the restricted funds. If there was a miscommunication,
Once you go for a tax increase above the 4%,
Yes, I
you
know.
have to,
I realize all of that. I'm just saying, I was informed by Jeremy this. And if it was wrong, it's because I was told otherwise.
okay?
Yes, I know we could raise taxes and increase.
You only
teaching.
are restricted on your funds when you ask the state to match.
So, so this next
Once it
phase,
became matched,
What-
then it's restricted.
okay. But these funds for the next phase,
They're restricted,
they're restricted.
because that's part of the money that came off of your initial tax increase.
So does this
And
come
they're
from
matched.
SFCC or?
SFCC, I mean, like, we're going after 6 million through FFCC right now. That would be a check, but SFCC does not have anything to do. The state budget is what matches a nickel. Now, I take that back, Jeremy, like the old EFF nickel. I mean, the Facilities Commission, did that one. Decades. So, I mean, matches come from the state budget. I mean, the amount of money that the state agrees to give you comes from the state budget. And our nickels, because the 2 nickels alone couldn't do the building. So you had to have a match, and we had to lobby for multiple years to get them matched. So that match is what restricted the funds.
So how come it's so easy right now to get a state match for this new
Man,
project?
there ain't nothing easy about getting the state to match anything. I mean, that's why it took us years to lobby to be able to do it. Unless it's your first nickel, then it's extremely easy. But to get that 4th nickel matched was an act of Congress.
But this new phase of construction,
It's really
getting
all the
matching.
same. It was the original
That's
project.
all
This
co-
isn't new, a
yeah.
new phase. We just couldn't do it before. And then we got additional
Yeah.
funds and
We
we can
got
now.
We cut those
Additional
pieces
funds.
out, and then we've gotten additional funds. So the additional funds that still come through the same lens are still restricted. I mean, it's not like we chose to do a $5 million add-on project to clean up the whole thing, when we could have used that $5 million for anything. I mean, you cannot use, once anything becomes matched, then it is locked down.
Okay.
Now, the board could go back and do another tax increase. I mean, there's only 3 areas for staffing, right? Federal or state money, state budget, local taxes. That's it. And then we have a 3rd revenue source that brings in an extra through tuition. I mean, those are your only money sources.
Okay. So what portion of our local taxes gets put towards construction? Or debt service, I guess I should say.
Do you know that off your top of your head?
I'm saying each year it's 20% that's pushed over into the building fund, the construction, so.
So
I'm gonna
somewhere around
say,
20%?
Yeah, 20%, and then it's matched,
I
but
don't-
20% of the
I
local
would've-
dollar
I
goes
would've
there.
I would have said around 17, that's
Really?
what I would have, I mean, so I don't want to,
Yeah.
we're talking off the top of our head. I mean, we have about 79% of our whole budget goes to pay,
Yeah.
right? That's, and then you have utilities and fixed costs. Then you come over and you have the rest of debt service.
Okay. And what is the state amount, what is the percentage by law that you have to put into construction or facility money?
There's no law around, there's a law around your contingency.
Yeah.
You have to have a carry, 2% or above carry. I mean, but 2% would be massively low for us. There's a requirement on coming to a board meeting every month and going over your financials. But there's no established law on that I'm aware of, Jeremy, on what has to be given to bonding.
The subject of each project is subject to specific ADP approval of the PGs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that's a case-by-case basis with their approval of the projects. And that includes, the PGs essentially financial form. So they look, if it's construction, it's a case-by-case approval of the ADP. But they don't have a published guideline as to what percentage you're allowed to use. I think
Most of our increase in funding over the last few years, since, really since 2018, 19, has been our growth in students. I mean, we're up to almost 1,600 kids. I mean, that brings in extra money, right? But then we have the, larger class sizes versus, more money. I mean, that's been that's an age-old, discussion.
Okay, so my next question is, since there's not a set amount of money that has to be set aside for debt service, why are we taking on more debt?
Because you made the vote to tell me to do that? You're the reason, along with 4 other people, and voted and told me that's what you want me to do.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have control over any of that, right? So you're the one that also voted for the next round of BGs because we have a Title IX issue up top. We have a facilities issue down on the tennis courts that we can't get through a season because there's cracks in them. We've got a press box that's not to code, right? You all ask me to clean those things up. That's what I do. I do what you all tell me to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of decided before I got on, but.
No.
I know I
No,
voted
you-
for it, but you know what?
What decided before you got on? No, absolutely not. We didn't get that money until this session, right? You were way on before this session.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
No, we're
Is
going to
that-
be finished.
Anything else?
I just would prefer that if you have things,
Well, Noreen, I would prefer you not say lies about me.
I prefer that people don't say lies about me also, so.
I don't know that I've ever accused you of anything. So we're in the same spot. Now we're good.
Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes.
Oh, my